What are the other skills that you think we need to equip ourselves with based on the way that the world is heading? Because we're, like the calculator came along and we no longer needed to be able to do complicated maths.
Yeah, completely forgotten my times tables.
I can't spell anymore. So if I said to my friends, the most I can do is 9 times 9. That's like the top end of my range. But with spelling, it's the same. I get like half the word correct now with AI, and it does the rest.
But again,
So what are those skills?
I think it's all human skills. I think there
Human
needs.
skills.
So I think where the world is going to go, and at least this is where I'm taking a bet, is that as the end product becomes easier to produce, it's the humanity that's going to suffer. And unless we take personal accountability, both as individuals and organizations, to teach and learn human skills, they will disappear for all the reasons we're talking about. So how do I listen? How do I hold space? How do I resolve conflict peacefully? How do I give and how do I receive feedback? Those are two different skills. How do I have an effective confrontation? You pissed me off. Do I know how to approach you as a friend, as a colleague, without creating a massive fight or losing a friendship over it? How to take accountability, how to express empathy. These skills, these very, very human skills, are the things that we're already starting to see just with the internet and social media are suffering. And so I think AI will only exaggerate the loss of those skills, and those skills are more important than learning how to spell.
One of the concerning things was I heard Sam Altman, who's the founder of OpenAI and ChatGPT, launch this thing called WorldCoin a couple of years ago when ChatGPT really started taking off. And it has been closely tied to the concept of universal basic income.
Mm-hmm.
The overarching idea is that in a world where AI and automation eliminate many jobs, UBI may be necessary. WorldCoin is one way to help implement it. That was stated by the founder of ChatGPT, Sam Altman.
Yeah. I'll go back to my ironic statement before. Isn't it ironic that they want to do a universal income, a standard universal income, now that the knowledge workers are losing their jobs? But when the factory workers were losing their jobs, those same people were massively against these kinds of things. So, I mean, yes.
What happens to purpose?
It's ironic.
And meaning if we're being, because for anybody that doesn't know what universal basic income is, the idea is the government, the state, whatever, would pay you a certain amount of money every single
minimum
month.
salary.
So $2,000, $3,000, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Because they don't think many of us are going to have, there's not going to be enough jobs to go around. And I wonder what happens to purpose and meaning and pursuit and challenge and all these things in a world where we're just being handed money.
So we're not being given wealth. There's a difference. We're being given survival money, right? And so, we have to be very careful that says, everybody who's on welfare is lazy. That's not true, So we have to be very careful that just because we give somebody something doesn't mean that they cease to have ambition or purpose or drive. It's like somebody who makes a commission salary, works on commission, and they make just enough to pay their rent and buy food, and that's it. Like, that's a loss. That's a lack of ambition, The cases, at least the people I've heard talk about it, they make a compelling case for it, especially in a world where there is plenty of wealth. But I don't know enough about it to make an argument for or against it, if I'm honest. But I do find it ironic that the Sam Altmans of the world are calling for it, given the fact that there's going to be so many job losses when it's jobs of their kind. And I also think that's funny. What's going to happen when Sam Altman's product gets good enough that he can lay off most of his staff? Just curious what happens.
He has made a point of having, I think it's 100 people or less in his company. He doesn't have a big team. And I think part of that is because when I heard his TED Talk a couple of days ago, he's saying, I think AGI is sooner than we think, actually. And I think we're going to have a fast takeoff, which means it's going to arrive very quickly and accelerate very quickly. So I think he's actually preparing not to.
Yeah, but what happens to the 90 people he lays off when he doesn't need 100, he only needs 10?
This is the question.
I'm just curious.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And
this is why anybody who has an opinion about it, the answer is we don't know. But I think people react very differently when it's their job on the line, when it's their income on the line, when it's their pride, when it's their ego, I keep hearing from companies, we were talking about this before we turned on the cameras, you talk to, if you want a new website, I guarantee you, I don't care which company you talk to, they will all talk about how they're AI this, AI that, and you ask the question, are you using AI? Yes, we're using AI. We're doing it differently. We're the future, blah, blah, blah. And then you ask them for a proposal. It's going to look like all the other proposals from 2015, and this is how many hours it's going to take our people to program this and code this. And I was like, what happened to all the AI? Why is this slow and expensive when everything's supposed to be fast and inexpensive?
Because they're taking the margin.
Of course they're taking the margin. And they've got a lot of people doing things the old-fashioned way because the business model, people work very hard to predict. The status quo exists because there are people who benefit from the status quo. That's why there is a status quo. And it's, like I said, everybody's into change, the future, until it's them that's threatened, or their income.
The billionaires that I know, the one consistent thing they've whispered to me about AI is that people are going to have a lot of free time. That's one of the things that's been really consistent. You're so right when you say that. When I asked you about the future of AI, you said, I don't know. The reason why I know that's probably the correct answer generally is because when I sat with the most advanced people in AI, whether it's Mustafa, who's head of Microsoft AI, now CEO of Microsoft AI, or people from Google, or the CEO of Google, or Reid Hoffman, who's the founder of LinkedIn, they all had different opinions.